This episode of the Police One podcast is sponsored by Officer Store. Learn more about getting the gear you need at prices you can afford by visiting officerstore.com. Hey, welcome back to Policing Matters on policeone.com. I am your host, Jim Dudley, and what a treat we have today. We have a legend in law enforcement visiting us today. Sheriff Leon Lott just won his 8th term as sheriff of Richland County, the second most populous in the state, with an estimated 425,000 residents. That does not happen without the rank and file and the voting community in favor of what you're doing. Sheriff Lott, 71, leads an agency that has around 900 personnel and an annual budget of $48 million. He has said that his main priority is given to reduce gun violence in the Columbia area, especially among juveniles. Lott was named Sheriff of the Year in 2021 by both the South Carolina Sheriff's Association and the National Sheriff's Association, and he currently serves as commander of the South Carolina State Guard. Well, we are going to get into some of the details there, but welcome to Policing Matters, Sheriff Lott.
Well, thank you. Glad to be on here with you, Jim.
Yeah, such an honor to have you as a guest. You heard my introduction. How do you do it? How do you balance the wants and the needs and the sometimes demands of the population, the voting population, with the resources that you have available to you?
Well, I've been very fortunate since I've been sheriff is that I'm not a Democrat sheriff, and I'm not a Republican sheriff. I'm just a sheriff of everybody. And our county council, who gives us our budget, is always looked at us as that way. That public safety is number one, and they know if I ask for something, it's something that we really need, not just something I want, but something we need. So I've been blessed. I've been had a very supportive council for 28 years, and this is the 29th year, and the council that we have now is the same way. So it hasn't been hard as far as getting the resources. You never have enough cops. Nobody can ever say, well, what's enough cops? But they've been able to give me the equipment, personnel, salaries that we needed to make us to be very effective.
Yeah, well, apparently you are. And at the same time, you're balancing the motivation, training, morale, and retention of your rank and file. How do you manage to keep the troops happy too?
Show them that you care. That's the biggest thing is people want to know that where you work at, the people in charge care about you. And we've created a culture of caring here. And this didn't start with one day. We started 28 years ago, and we build on it every single day. And we don't have problems with people wanting to come work here. We haven't had an opening now in about 3 years, and we're the largest agency in the state. People want to come work here. They've seen our reputation. They see what we do. They know we're cops. We're going to go out here and we're going to police like you're supposed to police, but they know that we care about them. And it's not just them, it's their family. So we always talk about we have a big family here. The Sheriff's Department's large, a big family, but that includes all your family members too. And that's what people want. And we don't have a recruiting staff. We don't do recruiting. People come to us. It's not been a problem for us to have good people. And it's not just people, it's good people. We're able to pick and choose, and we feel like we pick the best.
Yeah, that's terrific. And yeah, it seems like you've frozen that in time because so many other agencies are struggling around the country, spending millions of dollars on recruiting and media and doing everything they can. But every year we do a survey on Police One called What Cops Want. And the first thing that affects everything is leadership. And you're a great example of that. You talk about that holistic, whole family rather than just the officer who works for you. And it sounds by the way you manage that you're looking to catch officers doing or sheriff's deputies doing something right as opposed to doing something wrong.
Yeah, I mean, we deal with humans, so sometimes you're going to have a human make a mistake and you deal with it. But by and large, there's a lot more good things than there are bad things. And that's what we focus on. We do hold people accountable. The public know, and the deputies here know that, if they're right, I'll fight to the death for them. But if they're wrong, we're going to hold them accountable. We have zero tolerance. there's a line you don't cross. It's like being a little bit of pregnant. There's no such thing. There's not being, it's no such thing to being a little bit of right. You're right, got to be right all the time. And that's what we judge our people on. And they know that. And again, salaries, you got to have competitive salaries. We're not the highest paid salaries by any means in this area, but what we have is the highest degree is that we care and we look out for our people.
Yeah, and I mean, in researching your background, you've taken on some difficult challenges and some personnel issues I really don't want to go into, but I mean, you've taken a stand for what's right. And I'll tell you, the vast majority of cops would rather see a bad cop weeded out. And you've taken on that challenge as well.
Yeah, and again, we've created a culture where, we police ourselves. If a deputy sees another deputy doing something wrong, they know that it's okay to say something about it. They know that we're going to take action, and we don't cover anything up. If one of our deputies stumble and fall and we have to arrest them, then I'm on TV the very next day and we're talking about it. And I'm
Mm.
apologizing to the community that this was a failure and this is how we're going to work to make sure we don't have this again. You take responsibilities for when things go wrong. You don't try to hide from them. You don't run from them. And the community knows that, and the deputies know that too.
For sure. Hey, 2020 was a tumultuous year in law enforcement, and then you rebranded your radio cars and your uniforms to include the words peace officer on them. What was the idea behind that?
Well, I think some people have written a narrative about who we are, and it's not correct. When you say you work law enforcement, that just gives the connotation that all you do is enforce the law. And that's really a very small part of what we do. Our job is really to keep the peace. It's written in the Bible, blessed are the peacemakers, they be called the children of God. And that's who we are. So, the Police to Peace came up with this slogan and said, would you put it on your cars? And we did. People loved it. They said, we'll put it on the uniforms, and we have. And it, you see on back of my uniform, you'll see sheriff, then you'll see peace officer. On the deputies, you'll see deputy sheriff and peace officer. So they see a little bit of both. The community sees, okay, yeah, they're going to enforce the law, but they're out here keeping the peace. And that's what it's all about, is keeping the peace. And that doesn't mean locking people up all the time.
Yeah, and that goes back to, the early Western days of the local sheriff being that
Right.
peace
Peace
officer,
officer.
right?
Correct. And that's who we are. That's exactly what we do. And so we wanted to correct the narrative on who we are and what we do. And this was just a small way, but it goes beyond just having on your card and uniform.
Mm.
It's the way we operate. The deputies understand it. They understand what we do and how we do it. So it's more than just a branding. It's part of that culture that you create.
Right, exactly. Well, not a lot of news coming out of your area in South Carolina, knock wood, except I did hear that it snowed there, which threw me off
Rare.
kilter.
Very rare do we get snow. If the state thinks one snowflake's gonna fall, then the whole state shuts down. So yes, that's what we endured recently.
Yeah, well, I've been to Myrtle Beach and I can't imagine snow on top of all those alligators on the greens there.
Beach got a lot of snow, which is the first time in many, many years. And you see the beaches were not white with sand, they were white with snow.
That's wild. Hey, so because it's so quiet there, you're not in the national news, thank goodness. You have that firearm initiative, especially directed to keep them away from juveniles. How's that going?
Going good. We had a problem. This is the South. People have guns. What we saw was a lot of people would keep their guns in their vehicles and leave their vehicles unlocked. So
Mm.
we started a public campaign of that. Your vehicle's not a holster. Don't leave your gun in it. And when I'd go speaking, I would have everybody get your keys out, humor me, hold your keys up, push that button, and I'd say, how daggum hard is that? Lock your vehicle. So we've seen some success. We've reduced the number of guns being taken from cars, particularly unlocked cars. So it's been successful, but we still have a problem with youth violence. So we had a terrible December with kids killing each other. So
Mhm.
we're trying some new things that we haven't done in the past, and hopefully it'll have an impact.
Yeah, that's great. Hey, I want to ask you some more about the challenges of your career and a little bit about your international relations. But first, I want to take a quick moment and thank our sponsor. Officer Store, equipping protectors with passion. That's how we operate, and it's how we live. We understand that having the right gear can mean the difference between life and death. Our goal is to get you the gear you need, when you need it, at prices you can afford. Visit us at officerstore.com. And we're back, and I'm speaking with Sheriff Leon Lott, the much heralded sheriff of Richland County in South Carolina. Sheriff Lott, in a time where we are struggling nationwide in recruitment and retainment in sworn officers, what is your key strategy? You mentioned that you haven't had an opening in years and you're full staffing of a 900 person department. How do you retain them as well?
Well, again, you have to pay them well, but yeah, that's part of it. They got to be able to support their family, but you also got to take care of them, and that's physically and mentally. My job is simple. I have three tasks to do: give them the best equipment, the best training, and the best support. And I don't like to fail at anything, so we make sure that we provide that. So we do. We give them the best training, we give them the best equipment, and they know that we're going to support them in anything that they do. But my job is to take care of them not just physically, but also mentally too. And so we have a wellness program that goes beyond physical fitness. It goes into the mental health too. We've created a culture where it's okay not to be okay, and it's okay to ask for help. And being in this profession for 50 years, that's a big change when both of us probably first started. You never could talk about that you were weak, that you were having a bad day, that you saw something that bothered you, because that was a sign of weakness. When you ask for help, to me, that shows a sign of strength, and that your agency then has got to give you the help that you need. So we've created that. So, the guys and girls that work here know that we care about them. We're going to give them everything that they need. We're going to be there for them in the good times and in the struggling times. We all struggle. I mean, that's human nature. At some point, we're going to struggle in our life. But how do you struggle? Does that struggle overwhelm you, or do you learn how to struggle well? Do you manage that struggle? And so I think that goes a long ways into people wanting to work here and stay here. And when I talk about we don't have openings, if we have somebody retire, we have a waiting list. We've already processed people who are waiting on a waiting list, just ready to come to work here. So if someone gave me their papers today, said I'm retiring in 2 weeks, we just call somebody on the list and say, hey, your start date's 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
So that helps. And also it helps being on national TV. On Patrol Live, we originally was Live PD, did not realize that would be such a recruiting tool for us. It has. People from all over the United States watch that show, see what we do, see our people, and they want to come work here. So we have them traveling from all over to just come work here.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. So you're the second largest county in South Carolina. You're trying to manage that, and you've got, nearly 1,000 officers. You also have a hand in international issues, and you help train security forces in Iraq, and you're on an international board of Crime Stoppers. You must have confidence in your immediate command staff to leave the office to them.
Yeah, I think that's one of the keys to anybody being successful leader is that you have to surround yourself with good people, give them the tools and the mission, and get out of their way. And I tell my people all the time, if I'm not here, then I expect them to be able to do the job. And if they can't, then I have the wrong people in place. So uh, I've been blessed. I've had some good staff, continue to have good staff. Being a sheriff for 28 years, most of my staff started since I was sheriff. I've watched them grow from being a deputy now to being on a command staff. So I know them very well. I know their kids, I know their families, and you have to have good people, and I've been blessed to have some real good people to support me.
Yeah, well, you must have had a hand in that and mentoring them and sharing experiences, giving them opportunities to lead. Do you have a formal process for that?
Yeah, we do. We teach leadership. We have leadership classes, but I guess one of the things I like to do is lead by example. They've seen me their whole career from the day they started, and they understand what I believe in, what I expect of them. And if they've grown in their career, they've incorporated that in their leadership skills also. So when they reach that command staff level, we can read each other's mind. They know me and I know them, and I think that goes a long way in success. And one thing that I've done different here is I don't have a number two person. I've never had a number two. I have a line of deputy chiefs. So each one of them is in charge of a division or a section, and I expect all of them to work together. So if I'm not here, there's not one person in charge. They're all in charge, and
Mm.
they all work together as one team. And I've always preached to them, team, TEAM, together everyone accomplishes more. And that's kind of how we've been able to manage it for 28 years. And I think it's been successful. It's a little bit different than most sheriffs who will have an undersheriff or a chief deputy. I've never had one.
Yeah, well, they'd be waiting a long time. They'd be sitting in a chair with cobwebs on them if they're waiting to be number one.
Well, one thing that I've prided ourselves on is that a lot of those that's been my command staff now are sheriffs and chiefs, agency heads. They're like my children who I watched grow up and now have went off and left home, and that they're successful, but they realizing that they came from Richland County. That's where they grew up, and so to me, I don't look at that as a loss. I look at that as a gain. I think that's something that the sheriff's department is proud of, is that we've got other agencies now being led by people who came from this family here.
Yeah, that selfless leadership, and what a great example. I can't gloss over the fact that you went to Iraq to train their security forces, to start a whole new women's security force training program. Tell us a little bit about that, would you?
Well, in Iraq and the culture they have there, women really not respected and an authority figure, but they wanted to have a force of police officers that were female, and we have quite a few females here in leadership positions too. So I was invited with one of my female captains to go to Iraq to Erbil to their police academy there and help them develop it. And so when we first got there, the instructors were hands off. They would not correct the females and touch them. When we left, they were doing everything that you would expect somebody in a training division to do. And so we broke down a lot of barriers. Created some great friends. They've been some of them that we trained over there has visited and been here. I think one of the proudest thing is one of the leaders in that academy in Iraq was able to go to the FBI National Academy. I helped him to go to that first one from that nation to be able to go to the FBI National Academy. So it was a great relationship. We still stay in touch with each other. We still talk back and forth on leadership issues and concerns and stuff. So it's been a long-term relationship, but it was very rewarding to go there and see something start and then see the fruits of it come to fruition.
Yeah, and then Crime Stoppers, you are on the board for the International Crime Stoppers. How are efforts going there? I mean, we have ubiquitous video and cameras, and so I think life should be a little simpler for Crime Stoppers these days, no?
It is, but what we've discovered, the world is a small place now.
Mhm.
When we started our career, we were just concerned about what was going on in our jurisdiction. But look now with technology, how the world has gotten smaller. And when I say smaller, is that what goes on in another country does impact us here too. And so the international criminals that travel to America and back and forth, and we did not really pay much attention to those back then. Now we have to. And so the International Crime Stoppers is, I think, playing a big part in that, because a lot of these countries don't have what we have here with our Crime Stopper program. So we're creating that in these countries where it needs to be. Again, that's just getting citizens involved in preventing and stopping crime. And so what works here can work in other countries also, and that's what we're trying to do.
Well, Sheriff, we only have a 30-minute show. I can go on and on about your lifelong learning list of successes, your active participation in work. How do you have the time and to balance what you're doing on the job and then your home life? Do you have any fishing poles? What are you doing once you once you hang up the gun belt? Go home.
When I hang up the gun belt, I'm either going to a sporting event. I have a daughter that plays college basketball. I have grandchildren involved in sports. So I'm usually doing that. And I also love to hunt. So I can leave my office and be where I want to go hunting in about 15 minutes. So my wife and my assistant know where I'm at. So if they need me, they can get me very quickly. So doing this for 50 years, I've been able to balance that. I have a wife who's in law enforcement also, so she understands it. My kids have 4 daughters. They've all grown up with me being a cop, so they understand that sometimes dad's going to have to leave and go do something. But what we preach here, family always comes first. So, if I'm not going to miss many ball games. I can tell you that. I'm not going to miss my daughter or my grandchildren playing ball games. I think being there and showing them that I care to my family is just as important as showing the deputies here that I care about them.
Yeah, well, true leadership all the way around, at work, of course, but with your home life too. And it sounds like you're taking care of yourself and you're doing what you want to do off the job. So, hey, my hat is off to you. Thanks for spending time with us today. I know you are a busy man, and I wish you so much success in your future.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share what we do here at Richland County. No secret formula, no secret recipe. We want to share it and let other people maybe pick up some tips on what we do and help them be successful too.
Yeah, for sure. I'll include a link or two about Richland County Sheriff's Department. Sorry, no openings right now. Take a ticket and wait. Probably 3-year wait if you're trying to get in there. Sheriff, stay safe. And to our listeners, I want to thank you for tuning in and watching or listening. And let me know what you think. Drop me a line at policingmatters@policeone.com. And let me know what you think. Stay safe. Thanks for listening, and hope to talk to you again real soon. Take good care.